Feelings on the judge's decision?
First of all, I think that we need to congratulate Canelo and his team. He fought a great fight, the kind of fight that I wanted to see, just so that the fans get what they pay for. You have to. I think that we knew that we had fair judges, and I think you have to take your lumps when they see it go the other way. It'd be foolish for me to start criticizing when I don't win. It's a great fight for the fans. I think the fans won. We didn't get it this time, but hopefully they do it again.
Now, Gennady Golovkin was walking backwards most of the fight. Canelo took the fight to him, to the surprise of many. Is that what you expected?
That's exactly what I expected. I thought that he was mad enough that he was going to show everybody and show his fans that he could do that. And I'm very happy for him. I thought that he fought a great fight, like I said, and the judges saw him winning, then he won.
You know, they're selling y'all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you'll do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. Maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? What is up? MCR family, another daily edition of the show, Monday through Friday, live on YouTube, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. in the UK, 2 p.m. Pacific, and obviously podcasts from iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. It's obviously Canelo versus Triple G 2 review day. Get hyped. I mean, look, I know I have probably a wider scorecard than most people towards Canelo, and I know there's people that definitely disagree with it, and that's okay. This was a great fight, and I think it was a very close fight. I've gone back and watched it probably half a dozen times now. I have, in my sense, sort of solidified my scorecard of it, and I can see a wide range. I mean, I counted 5 particular swing rounds where you could really give it to either guy, and I'm not going to argue that. And because of those rounds, having almost half the fight be a swing fight, it goes everywhere. And I know there's going to be opinions and upset fans everywhere that want to talk about this. Again, 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you are international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to call in, discuss this, debate it. If you scored it for Triple G, I want to hear your opinions because I think they're valid. I think you have a valid argument. If you thought Canelo won just like me, and of course I want you to call in and reaffirm what I said. Of course, come on. But regardless, before we get into any of it, because I know we're gonna get down rabbit holes. It's gonna happen with this show. It's gonna happen here. This was a great fight, and live, maybe because I was actually at the first one, that one has a little more of a resonance to me. But every time I've watched it, it's entertaining. Like, I'm enthralled. By the time we get to that 12th and final round, which is probably one of the best rounds of the year, if not round of the year, the only thing really lacks is a knockdown, obviously. It is utterly exciting, and the best entertainment you can buy. And I think that needs to be the foundational point of all of our arguments. That this was a fun fight. It was close. It was competitive. These two guys are so evenly matched stylistically that probably regardless of how they fight, when they're going to fight, we're going to get close fights. We're going to get competitive ones. I hope that none of my listeners out there, my loyal listeners out there, think that, it's a robbery, because it wasn't that. It clearly was not a robbery. And I think if you think that, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and try to argue with you till I'm blue in the face. That's not the hill I'm going to die on. This was a fun fight. I picked Canelo to win this. I thought he won this. Maybe there is an implicit bias there. But whatever it is, it was an entertaining scrap, a Hall of Fame-worthy fight. And overall, this saga between these two have been fun fights. I talked about this with Coach Mitty on our Championship Rounds Patreon-only podcast, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. How many times do we get a fight of this caliber, this elite, and it pays off this well? Most of the time, fights of this caliber end up being very technical. A la Thurman Garcia. I think that's a prime example. That was a hyped fight, and it turned into a very slow-paced fight in some ways. I thought these two fights are the antithesis to that. This is Thurman Porter. This is it living up to every bit of the hype that we could have hoped for. But yeah, I think we need to press that. We need to always mention that before we start debating and chewing each other's heads off about who scored what round for who. This fight was fantastic. Now, to give my scorecard, because I know I already see people asking me, what's my scorecard? I'll give it right now. I actually kept it right here. Let me scroll down. Round 1, I gave Canelo, which was a string round, one of my 5 rounds, which was, it could go either way. Obviously, one of the more tentative rounds of the bunch. Low volume output by both guys, but also a microcosm of the fight as a whole. So it's interesting that way. Second round, Canelo. Third round, Canelo. I feel like those are pretty clear Canelo rounds. Fourth round, Triple G. That was a close round. I could have given Canelo that one, but I thought Triple G did just enough, landed the better shots throughout that round. Regardless of landing more shots, he landed the better shots in that round. And rounds 5 through 7 were clear Canelo rounds, in my opinion. Rounds 8 and 9 were some of the hardest rounds to score in this fight, in my opinion. I gave round 8 to Canelo, round 9 to Triple G. It's possible you gave both to Triple G, both to Canelo, one each, switch it up. It doesn't matter. Those 2 rounds are insanely close with ebbs and flows within them. Round 10 and 11, probably one of maybe the clearest rounds of the entire fight. Obviously, Triple G rounds. He won round 10, he won round 11. Clearly his fight in those 2 rounds. Hurt Canelo in round 10. And interesting because Canelo was hitting him some really good shots in that round, and then Triple G just laid it on him with that huge right hand. Obviously stunned Canelo. And round 12, obviously a string round in and of itself. I thought Canelo won that round similar to the round 10. I thought he won it in the last half of the round. I thought he landed the better shots in the last half, even though obviously Triple G got the better shots maybe in the first half of that round. But again, I have no issue if you gave round 1, 4, 8, 9, and 12 all Canelo or all Triple G. I will not complain. That's how close this is. And again, to sort of now take it back, because that's my scorecard. I scored a 116, 112 Canelo. Rounds 1, 4, 8, 9, 12 can go any way you want. It's going to be interesting to see, obviously, maybe 30 years from now, 40 years, like some history now or time away from this fight, what our perception of it is going to be. It's always interesting to me to think about. But obviously, it's a close competitive fight. I have a range of, if I gave all those string rounds to Triple G, it's 6-6 in my scorecard. It's a draw. Is it possible I gave one more? Is it possible to argue one more round to Triple G in that way? Absolutely. I see Anthony Walker, guy I respect a lot, saying 116, 112 for Triple G. I think that might be a little bit far, but I'm not going to argue it that much. It's really about what you prefer in here. You have, obviously, the lower punch rate of Canelo. You have the efficiency of Canelo, though. The better, probably, power punches of Canelo. but you have the jab of Triple G, the volume of Triple G. That is hard to separate, let's be honest. And that was the same story in every round. I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, you can't talk about, like, storylines in this fight. Well, let's be honest here. The storyline throughout the fight took place in each individual round. We saw Canelo try to press Triple G, which was surprising. We did not expect that, and he did it. I think Triple G was caught off guard by that strategy of Canelo, and therefore he didn't know what to do for those first 6 rounds. That's why I gave a lot of the first, half of the fight to Canelo. I think Triple G didn't know what to do off the back foot. Not that he doesn't have the skill for it, but I think he just did not plan for this. He didn't have any conception in his brain about Canelo being the one in the center of the ring and Triple G on the outside circling around, trying to land his right hand, trying to find that lane for it and struggling for it. That was new for Triple G, especially in his pro career. Who has ever pushed Triple G back? Maybe Jacobs for spots, maybe. Definitely not Lemieux. Definitely not no one else. Definitely not Kell Brook. None of these guys. That was new for Triple G, and I think that obviously played a factor into those first, 6, 7 rounds. And then I think Canelo, utilizing that strategy, utilizing that work rate, tired out. I think he did. Rounds 9 through 12, and arguably round 8 through 12, because the last half of round 8 is that momentum shift. Even though I gave round 8 to Canelo, the reason why it's a swing round is because there is that momentum shift in the second half of that round. And then after that, it's arguably Triple G's fight. He won most of it after that. And that's due to him, I think, getting comfortable with what was happening in there, with Canelo being the center, and also Canelo tiring out. Canelo's work rate dropping, his efficiency dropping. And once his efficiency stopped being the determining factor in him winning the first half of the fight, Triple G was able to sort of close that athletic gap between the two and start landing that right hand a little more efficiently, start landing the uppercut more efficiently. He had a better second half of the fight, and that was kind of odd to me as well. And again, people are going to call in. They're going to have their take on it, but it is especially this fight, it's a game of inches. It really is. All of these rounds were competitive, close, fun rounds. And if half the fight is one of those where you sort of just raise your hand and go, who do you give that to? As you're looking around at your buddies. That factor and that nature of this fight is going to lead to this divisive, vocal fan base we have right now. And that's fine. Again, that shows that we care. I think coming into this fight, we really didn't care about this fight for some reason. And then fight day, we felt the atmosphere. We felt the energy for it. And it turned out to be a fantastic fight. And look at us all now. We've been yelling and fighting and clawing at each other on social media for the last 3 days. And that will continue. That will 100% continue. Fantastic fight from both men, like I said. I thought Canelo edged it. I thought he had the better game plan. He was more efficient in there. He landed the better shots throughout the fight. And I saw Triple G trying to adapt, trying to play a game on the back foot, and being less efficient at it. And that, I think, hurt him. Now, obviously, both guys, to sort of move on from the fight itself, both guys are free agents now. What's going to happen next? I don't know. This is a time and paradigm shift, which I think we all knew was coming, but not right now. The two biggest HBO fighters, obviously Canelo, Triple G, are now free agents, and the potential of them going to ESPN, DAZN, Showtime/Fox with PBC, those are all realistic options now. They are. I think ESPN's a huge option, really, let's be honest, for a guy like Triple G and Canelo. ESPN has been promoting this fight heavily, let's be honest, and Canelo is one of, if not the biggest star in the sport, minus Floyd Mayweather. Why wouldn't you want him, and why wouldn't you pursue him aggressively? Let's be honest. What I would like to see from both men, I talked a little bit about this on yesterday's show on Patreon. Triple G, I kind of want fresh matchups. I don't really want a third fight just yet. I think a Triple G move to 168, maybe for even like a one-off fight, while you wait for a Canelo third fight makes some sense, whether it be James DeGale or something along that line. Again, makes sense to me. Maybe I know Chris Eubank Jr. has a fight lined up in this fall, which we might get to later in the show. Maybe you fight the winner of that fight, which would probably be Chris Eubank Jr. Try something a little bit fresh and new, and you're going to want to go for something that's a little bit low risk, high reward, while you wait for a potential trilogy fight with Canelo. And that's kind of what I'm okay with. The idea of Triple G sticking around and fighting, obviously, the Jamal Charlos, the Demetrius Andrade, Billy Joe Saunders winner, Daniel Jacobs, Derevchenko winner, those are all appealing fights, don't get me wrong. But I know how a boxing team and manager thinks. I've talked to them. I know how they think. I've talked to Triple G's team several times before. They're going to look for that sort of Chris Eubank fight. That's going to make the most sense. And I don't blame them for that. Think about it. Same with Canelo. We're going to get to what I think Canelo should do next. These guys just went back-to-back Fight of the Year contenders or legit Fight of the Year winners in a row. I don't blame them if they take a softer touch next. I don't think we really should either. I think they did the right thing by obviously fighting and then having the instant rematch, or it was going to be an instant rematch, and then obviously the PD issue. So I'm not really upset about that. If they want to both take a soft touch, I'm not going to die on that hill of bitching about Charlo not getting his shot yet. Charlo's still there. Like, Jacobs Derevchenko winner is still going to be there. Andrade Saunders winner is still going to be there. It's not like these guys are going away anytime soon. So if Triple G goes and takes a Eubank or DeGale fight at 168 while he waits for Canelo, I'm not mad. If Canelo goes and fights David Lemieux in December for pay-per-view, I'm not mad at that. These guys like Jamal Charlo, like Jacobs, Derevchenko winner, like we've been talking about, they're good enough that they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to stay at the top. They're going to fight Canelo or Triple G at some time, in my opinion. And we're going to see these fights we want. I know the fight that a lot of people have been sort of clamoring for is a Canelo-Jamal Charlo fight. Of course we want that. But I also don't blame Canelo for taking a soft touch after 2 back-to-back Triple G fights. Come on. Bayside, yes. Yes. Some fighters deserve soft touches sometimes. When you get hit in the head for a living, and especially if you take the best guy back-to-back, and Fight of the Year, where it takes years off your life, yeah, take the soft touch. And if you disagree with that, fine. Cool. You can call in, disagree with me, whatever. I really don't care. I think that's pretty obvious. And if you are a fighter-first mentality, you should think that way. But digressing, let's talk about the actual card itself, the rest of the card, I should say. Because, again, fantastic fight. Agree to disagree. If you're picking Triple G and you think I'm an idiot, I really don't care at this point. It was a fun fight. I got my money's worth, and I hope you think you thought you got your money's worth as well. But David Lemieux versus Gary Spike O'Sullivan, wow, what a knockout of the year potential right there. David Lemieux catching him with a left hook, clean, after Sullivan tries to land a jab. Insane knockout. David Lemieux, there's not much to say about it other than he was obviously just the bigger guy. Had almost a 20-pound weight advantage on Spike O'Sullivan. Easily was probably a little more of a technically clean fighter in there and just pieced him up till he knocked him out in the first round. Fantastic performance from David Lemieux. He needed that, especially after the awful performance, probably career worst performance with Billy Joe Saunders. He needed this win really bad to sort of keep his career afloat, in my opinion. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. After I run through these fights, I will be taking your calls before we get to the rest of the news of the day. Again, you can call in anytime. I will take your call. We will obviously talk about Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather 2, that whole shit. Cameron Gillen over at boxingnewsonline.net, I believe, saying, how do we call in if we're international? Cameron, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com. The email is right there below on the screen. Email me. I'll email you a permanent free call-in link. It's kind of like Skype, but it's not Skype, just because it's easier. Sorry, excuse me. again, sort of digressing back to the card itself, again, call in 323-870-4051, press 1 to get in the queue, or email me if you are international. Jaime Munguia versus Brandon Cook. Not much to say about this fight either. This one, to me, was the biggest mismatch of the entire card, obviously. Munguia had a legit 20-plus pound advantage on Brandon Cook, had a 5 to 6 inch height advantage. Looked composed. His move to a new trainer that has trained Oscar De La Hoya, Evan Valerio, I believe, and others. I forget who was the other guy he trained. I think it's a good move for him. I think Jaime Munguia looked like he was a little more poised, a little more composed in there, and took his time to sort of start working those hard body shots in. I think that a lot of people are sort of critical of Munguia based off the Liam Smith fight, which I understand, but we saw improvement. And again, he's 21 years old. He's going to improve with time, and I believe in a few years we're going to talk about him with the Herds, the Charlos, and eventually, obviously, at 160, because the guy is, borderline over light heavyweight, near cruiserweight. Let's be honest. He's going to have to go to 160. And so obviously fights like Moreta, Jason Quigley at the lower level are going to be fun, let alone the high level like Jamal Charlo, Andrade, Saunders, even hell, Triple G. I know that was talked about, obviously, before the Vanzemar Rosen fight in Cinco de Mayo of this year. There's a lot of options for a guy like this who seemingly has all of the backing of Golden Boy Promotions. So the sky's the limit for this kid. Let's be honest. He has power. He seems to be improving, so that means he has the mind for the sport, not just a brawler. That is key. That is key. The fact that we saw improvement is the biggest takeaway we can have from the Jaime Munguia fight. But moving on, Roman Gonzalez versus Moises Fuentes. Not much to say other than Roman Gonzalez got a great knockout with a vicious right hook, but this was a Roman Gonzalez that looked different. It was a Roman Gonzalez that looked unsure of himself, looked uncomfortable in there. Definitely looked slower, a little bit more faded. The version that we saw run through like Akira Higashi at 112 and Estrada, that Roman Gonzalez has gone, unfortunately. I know that's kind of maybe pessimistic and a hater thing to say, but I think it's true. He can still deliver great fights, but guys like Ancajas and others are really going to give him some tough work. And I think his time in the sun is just gone, unfortunately. He can still deliver great fights for us, but the second he takes that step up in competition and starts fighting those real championship level guys, the way we saw Roman Gonzalez not look the same in this fight is going to be even more apparent in those fights, and it's going to lead to him getting seriously hurt. And that's what I'm probably most concerned of. Obviously his trainer passed away. That was a huge loss for him. I get sort of a Mike Tyson, Cus D'Amato vibe where it was like a father-son relationship between the two. So it's one of those things where I'm conflicted. I honestly am, because obviously the athleticism is gone. That X factor of just that presence, that is gone. And that makes me concerned, because I know the second he fights like a Yaffe or others, he will get hurt. He will. But again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue, or email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get that international call-in link. We're going to be moving on to the ESPN card on Friday with Jose Ramirez versus Antonio Orozco. Not much else to say on the card other than this fight. I know Jamal Herring fought on it, and Hiroki Okada. Those are some good, notable opponents, or not opponents, fighters, I should say, that you should probably pay attention to, but nothing really to say on that in those matchups, to be honest. But Jose Ramirez versus Orozco, fun back and forth fight. I love Ramirez moving to Robert Garcia's boxing academy. I think that's a fantastic move for him. I believe that is going to refine a lot of the technical, not flaws, because it's not really flaws. It's just the looseness in this game. His combinations aren't tight enough. His defense isn't as tight enough. So that needs to be a little bit fine-tuned. Just his form, his posture, his guard needs to be a little bit improved. And obviously, if you look at the gym over there, guys like Abner Mares, Mike Garcia, others, they have shown that gym is a high caliber super gym in boxing when that is now a rarity. So I am 100% sold on Ramirez moving to this gym and it improving his game. Now, does that mean he can go in here and beat a Regis Prograis, a Josh Taylor? I don't know yet. But obviously, he mentioned Maurice Hooker versus Alex Saucedo winner. That is a fantastic fight for him next. I cannot wait for that. And Orozco, I'll be honest, I know he made 140 for this fight, and he honestly doesn't have that much power, but he's a big guy for this weight class in terms of just the size, the mass on him. I would really prefer him to move to 147. I think it's just more of a healthy weight class for him. Even though he was the smaller guy in terms of height, he was the bigger guy than Ramirez. That was obvious. And I think he can fine-tune his game to be a little more technically sound, so his power disadvantage isn't as much of a factor in these fights. But good back-and-forth fight between them. Cannot wait to see that Ramirez versus Hooker Saucedo winner fight. That should be a fun back-and-forth fight, either on ESPN or DAZN. But moving on, God, I don't know. I don't know how to address this, people, because I'll be honest, I thought this was fake. I legitimately thought this was fake. If you've been living under a rock anywhere, you may not have noticed that Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao met up in a Japanese club or a rave or something. I don't know. And they have now talked, a la like the basketball game for the first fight. They have talked to each other, and now they're going to allegedly fight in December of this year. Yes. And to give it a little more credence, today, per Mike Coppinger, saying, breaking, talks for Mayweather Pacquiao 2 are in advanced stages, and it's expected there will be contracts out this week, according to industry sources. Once finalized, the fight will likely land in Las Vegas, and 2 target dates for December 1st and December 8th. Oh, God. This is sad, guys. This is sad. And I think Bob Arum is definitely echoing what we all say here and how we feel about this. Saying Bob Arum on MayPac 2 per Brian Campbell of CBS. I ain't got time for that shit. So Top Rank will not renew the deal with free agent Pacquiao after 17 years of working with each other. It's time for dramatic reading, guys. Yes, dramatic reading time. Let's go. Let me get the dramatic music out. I know Anthony's in his cubicle just smiling. For Bob Arum and Brian Campbell of CBS, listen to me. I will not be involved in that fight, period, at all. Let other people do it. God love them. Let them make money. It's not for me. I want to devote my time and effort to guys who are in the prime of their career.
I want smoke.
People like Lomachenko, Crawford, Jose Ramirez, Oscar Valdez. I ain't got time for that shit. Yeah, so I'll be honest. Bob Arum, you are my spirit animal right now. You are completely echoing what I'm thinking and saying here. Anthony, I'm glad you liked it, man. I'll be honest, it's just one of those things where I don't know sort of how to feel about it. Oh, sorry about that. For people on YouTube. It is, I don't know. Are we, I'm going to buy it probably because it's my job, but do I want to see this? Maybe like 15% of me does, and maybe that's bad on me. I don't know, fam. I mean, let me know, please, in the chat, in the comment section, call in. What do you think about this? Are you interested in it? Do you want to see it? Do you think the casuals will see it? What's the pay-per-view buy rate? These are all questions that are valid here. Like, this probably still does, 2 million plus pay-per-view buys? Right? Like, that's not ludicrous to say, in my opinion. Obviously a 50% drop in revenue, but it's still a insane revenue gain for 36 minutes of work. So I don't know, what the gauge is out there. I think us hardcores are going to be, stick our nose up at it. I know that. But are you still going to buy it? Were the people in the chat that are, laughing at this fight, will you still sit down that Saturday night in December and click buy when it's $85, $100 pay-per-view? We're basically saying, Matt, you can spend $100, you crazy. Shout out to patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. All the expenses for the show right there. It is what it is. I mean, Robisky, this is my job, unfortunately. And I have a duty to tell the people about this fight. It was for Mayweather McGregor. It's the same thing. Where I didn't want to talk about that. It wasn't a valid fight. We knew what was going to happen, even though a lot of people in MMA didn't. We knew what was going to happen. Everyone in boxing knew what was going to happen, and it did happen. And I feel like that's the same thing here. We all know what's going to happen here. And guess what? It's not going to be a fun fight. I don't think it is. Does anyone out there think that all of a sudden Manny Pacquiao is going to put it on Floyd Mayweather because they're both too old? Come on. Lucas Matisse was just standing there to be hit in that fight. That's why he looked so good. I'm very conflicted on this. I would still watch it, and I'm still slightly interested in it because it is Mayweather Pacquiao. They have so much. They have been so ingrained in our psyche as fans, as a sporting culture, that I think it's just impossible not to want to see that. No, Bayside, I did not. It's just one of those things where I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of over the Pacquiao era. I'm kind of over the Mayweather era. Now they're fighting twice, allegedly. I don't know. I think it was Christopher Carlson. I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name. Who does a boxing podcast, which I'm obviously spacing out on the name of. Again, completely apologizing, not my intentions. He mentioned the only way he would pay for this fight is if Wilder Fury is on the undercard as the co-main. And that's not far off from kind of where I'm at. If this has a really good, deep undercard, I probably will be not as bitchy about it, but I don't know here. Ivan Diaz saying, the only way I'd be intrigued is if Mayweather fought the same way that he did against McGregor, yay or nay. That's not happening, though. Mayweather did that because it was McGregor. Mayweather won't do that against Pacquiao, especially not the Pacquiao we still saw against Matisse, who still show that he has a little bit in it, right? If Pacquiao came out there and put on a goose egg against Lucas Matisse, it looked like shit. Maybe, Ivan. But right now, no, I really don't think he does that. We're gonna see Mayweather Berto. It's gonna look like that, in my opinion. Just an awful fight. But I'm probably still gonna pay for it because I'm a boxing degenerate. Shots at myself. It is what it is. Hold on. Since Cameron emailed me, let me email him the international call-in link. And Cameron, when you do call in, make sure you are muted. And if it's on speakerphone or it's on speaker on your computer, turn the sound down, please, Cameron. Thank you. Since I know you are a first-time caller. Anyways, digressing. Yeah, definitely leave a comment below in the chat, in the comment section. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. I want to hear your take on Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather. Part deuce. That's what I want to hear your take on. I do. I legitimately do. Almost as much as I want to hear your take, obviously, on maybe Fight of the Year in Canelo versus Triple G2. Obviously, call in for that as well. We can discuss that, break that one down. Main event Mark saying, why would anyone want to see that shit again?
I want smoke.
Yeah, you're right. Because we're degenerates, Mark. That's why. Benjamin, that's a good one. I appreciate that line. That's funny. But we'll be moving on. We're going to confirm some news that was first reported. I forget by who exactly. It might have been Mike Coppinger, to be honest. since we were last talking about him. But per Dan Rayfield, Edler Alvarez versus Sergey Kovalev will most likely be February 2nd, the Ford Center, Dallas Cowboy Training Facility in Frisco, Texas, on ESPN. So it is what it is. I think it's a good move for both guys. I think it makes sense to put this fight on ESPN. And again, even though HBO talked about Munguia fighting in December and they have Jacobs versus Derevchenko in November, I want to say, come on, let's be honest. Come on. It's time. RIP HBO. You know, let's get the nails out. Let's get this coffin done with. Because it's over. Like, come on. Digressing very quickly because Ivan had a good question and I wanted to address that in the very top of the show. Not the very top of the show, but in the first subject of the show, saying, what do you think about the commentators for the Canelo Triple G fight? I think I've made it pretty clear in my tenure in this sport that I'm not a fan of Jim Lampley. And while Roy Jones does occasionally say some really truthful things and some funny things, I think overall he's pretty subpar, to be quite honest. Max is probably the best out of the bunch, but I don't think Max is particularly the best at calling fights. I think he's really good at breaking down fights. But calling them, I think, is not his forte, to be quite honest. So I'm not a fan of the commentary team. So whatever I could say about it, it's not nice, probably. I think Max Hellman was probably the best person on the broadcast last night, or I should say Saturday night. But that doesn't mean much, to be honest. But yeah, again, I don't hold that commentary team in high regard as well. So that's probably part of it. Switching back to Mike Coppinger with some more breaking news, saying sources Gilberto Ramirez versus Jesse Hart are going to do it again when they meet last year. Zerto outpointed Hart in an action fight. The rematch will likely take place in December and be carried on an ESPN platform, whether that be ESPN Plus or regular ESPN is to be determined. But I love this fight. I know some people kind of some people are not really hyped on Jesse Hart. Some people really don't believe in him as an elite contender. I think he is. And I think since the loss to Gilberto Ramirez, which was a close competitive fight, he has only improved. And that, to me, makes this fight a little more intriguing. I think since their first fight, Jesse Hart has looked to be the better fighter than Gilberto Ramirez. So I'm okay with the rematch. Plus, I think Jesse Hart is a legit contender. So that's probably why I believe that. Obviously, do I want to see this fight over a Gilberto Ramirez, Dave Benavidez unification? Of course not. But we're not getting that. And the public is really not calling for it. So, talking about hills to die on, that's not a hill I'm going to die on. Same with like an Uzgatigi unification. That's going to happen down the line, especially now that Uzgatigi is on ESPN. We're going to see a Gilberto Ramirez or Jesse Hart versus Uzgatigi next year. Even Mike Coppinger said that. So I'm okay with this rematch. I really am. I know there's a vocal part of the fan base that is shitting on this fight. I think it's a really good fight. I think it's an interesting style matchup. And Jesse Hart, like Ivan said, has looked hungry. And we might see him actually beat Gilberto Ramirez, who has looked a little bit, I'm going to use the term mediocre, and that might be harsh, but he has. He has looked a little bit mediocre, in my opinion at least. But moving on to some more news of the day. The Zone broadcast team is complete and official. Sugar Ray Leonard, Brian Kenny will obviously be the lead commentators during the fight. Kay Adams, Chris Mannix will host each fight night, and LZ Granderson will report from ringside. Okay, it's news. I got to report it. I've never been a fan of Sugar Ray Leonard as a commentator, being completely honest. Brian Kenny, while obviously having reached the highest level of sports broadcasting, I think he's done Super Bowls and I think he's done like Olympics. He's done the highest level, in my opinion. However, I think he's one of the most cookie-cutter sports broadcasters out there. So miss me with that. I'm good off of it. Kay Adams, I'm not familiar with her work, I'll be quite honest, so I'm not going to speak on it. Chris Mannix, though, I really like Chris Mannix. I think he does an awesome job. I think he's one of the few guys making that transition right now in the industry from traditional media to broadcaster that I really respect and I find reputable and pretty consistent as well. Like, I don't find him as a biased commentator, unlike some others who have made that leap from media to broadcaster. I'll be honest. Joe Lopez says Sugar Ray did PBC. He did I want to say like the first few big PBC events, but he wasn't like a main PBC guy. I think he did like the NBC fights, I want to say. Like, he might have done the Spence fight during the Olympics, but he didn't do that many. Anyways, like wrestling. Yeah, I'm not too hyped on this. You know, I like Chris Mannix. I like his addition to it. I like that he's sort of now making this career change. I think he could be a real valuable tool to broadcast teams, in my opinion. Plus, has one of the better podcasts out there about the sport, let's be honest. But moving on, by way of Michael Benson, but per a Russian news outlet, Dmitry Bivol revealed he has been negotiating with Badger Jack for a potential December WBA title defense. However, if they can't reach a deal, Joe Smith Jr. is another option. I'm happy with this. Like, hold on. Let me get some air horns for them. Salute to them. Because, first off, I think either fight is a good fight. Dmitry Bivol versus Badger Jack, I'm sold on that, especially. Obviously, the Joe Smith Jr. fight is not as good of a fight. It's not a fight that I'm as hyped for, but it's still a credible, reputable opponent for a guy like Dmitry Bivol that he can sort of work his name off of, in my opinion. So I love that announcement. And hopefully it's true. Hopefully there's some actual fire to this smoke, and we get a Dmitry Bivol versus Badger Jack, or at the very least, Dmitry Bivol versus Joe Smith Jr., which would be fantastic. But yeah, shout out to Dmitry Bivol, man. Salute to him. But moving on, I mentioned James DeGale as a potential opponent for Triple G. He has a fight coming up, actually. He's going to return on the Victor Ortiz Molina fight. And is that FS1 card? Or is that a Fox card? Please tell me it's not a Fox card. I forget. But anyways, he will end up on the John Molina Jr. Victor Ortiz card. I don't believe it will be aired on Fox Sports 1 for those knowing. There has been no opponent mentioned yet, I believe. But yes, we do have a James DeGale sighting since he gave up his belt to Uzcategui, which I don't blame him because Uzcategui was going to take his soul. Some more news, and this is the last boxing news. So if you do want to call in and just talk boxing before we go to MMA, call in now, 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. Email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com if you are international. Cameron, I did send you a link, so anytime, Cameron, come on. But yes, this is going to be the last boxing topic. So again, if you want to talk Canelo Triple G, Mayweather Pacquiao 2, whatever you fancy, call in right now before we get into MMA. Or if you want to wait till obviously we discuss the UFC Moscow event or other news of the day for MMA, you can wait for that as well. But last boxing news of the day, Chris Eubank Jr. versus J.J. McDonough on Grove Smith card. I mean, I get it. Eubank just had a loss. He's going to take a tune-up. Like, we know it. We know the Eubank game. Like, this is not surprising, but it's very upsetting. And also, like, maybe not but my perception of Chris Eubank Jr. has changed. It has. Like, he was, even after the Billy Joe Saunders fight, he was making improvements. And I thought he was going to actually become something. And then George Groves goes out there and shows, actually, he really hasn't. Very very easy matchmaking has helped Chris Eubank Jr. looked improved. And now he has to start basically from scratch again. And it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Obviously, he still has a name and some value to that name. Can he convert it to actual boxing success? I have no idea. It is what it is, but it is definitely going to be interesting to see what Chris Eubank Jr. can do going forward other than fighting guys we don't either know or care about. But moving on to MMA topics of the day. Again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue or email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com if you are international and want to get that international call-in link. Cameron jumped in right before the MMA topics. I know he was smart. Cameron, do you want to talk Canelo Triple G?
Yeah, what's going on, man? I jumped on. I want to talk some MMA as well when you do get into that. So I'll follow that as well. So I thought I'd jump on. So I don't know if you want me to jump on, talk about the boxing, and jump off again, then come back on after you talk to MMA, or
no. Let's run through it. Let's just discuss it. Let's discuss all the fights this weekend, man.
Sorry, man, I was on mute there. But yeah, I thought Canelo won the fight of the weekend. A lot of people thought Golovkin won. I saw all the media outlets that were there. They all scored it. I think 1 out of something like 40 media outlets scored it for Canelo, and a lot of them scored it a draw, and mostly for Golovkin. I thought Canelo won the fight. For me, I've said it before, there's a lot of people crying that it's a robbery and things like that, whereas for me, it was a close fight. I think a lot of people have been harsh on Canelo for the fact that, in the first fight, everyone thought Golovkin won the fight. I certainly thought Golovkin won the first fight. And, because Canelo got a gift in that fight, I feel like they're claiming that he got a gift in this fight, which for me is ridiculous. I thought Canelo won the fight 115, 113. I can see why people call it a draw. I can see why people thought Golovkin won the fight. But for me, I didn't have a problem with Canelo getting a nod this time. I had a problem with him getting a nod the first time. But I just feel like because Canelo's got this reputation of having the favoritism of the judges, we've seen it with the Cotto fight. Mayweather draw was outrageous. Got the win against Lara. I think people, whether Canelo gets a close fight and if he gets a decision, people are always going to cry robbery. And I just feel like it's unfair to some extent because I feel like, he probably deserved a decision, in my opinion, this time around. So for me, I just feel like Canelo's getting a lot of hate for this result. And I don't know, man. I just feel like a trilogy is pointless as well. I wrote on Twitter a few days ago. I feel like, if Golovkin was going to win against Canelo, it was going to be this weekend. He's 36 now. And, you either got to knock Canelo out or you've got to beat him around the ring for 12 rounds. And he's just too good of a fighter for that. So for me, I don't want to see a trilogy at all. So I was pretty happy with the outcome of the weekend.
I will say this. I think that obviously the Canelo hate factor is there. Like, I don't know if that's ever going to be, like, that's never going to change. Like, he is the Mexican Mayweather in that way. Like, people hate him. People love to hate him, whether it be for the PD reasons, whether it be for the gift decisions and that whole, Vegas favoritism factor that people perceive. And part of it is legit, part of it's not. I think that's never going to go away. I think the people that hate Canelo and think that he's a cheater, that he's lost a ton of fights like the Lara fight, both Triple G fights, they are never going to ride with him. And I think Canelo, because obviously he got very emotional in this build up to this fight based off of all the hate and the fan reaction to him, he needs to get over that because he's going to be hated. And he's always going to get counted out by the fans in close decisions, and he has to live with that. Cameron.
Yeah, so the thing with the whole drug thing that happened in the first fight, and I've said this on another podcast on just after the fight, and somebody was discrediting Canelo for the win because of the fact that he tested positive in the first fight, and when a rematch was supposed to happen, and they were clamoring on saying that they don't know what Canelo had in his system in this fight and things like that. I mean, I've just seen some outrageous excuses from Golovkin fans and things like that. And I get it, you know what I mean? Because they thought their guy won. And, if he got the decision, like I said earlier on, if he got the decision, I wouldn't have minded. I wouldn't have sat here and complained about it, even though I had Canelo winning. But I just feel like Canelo's, like you just said, Canelo's always going to get this sort of hatred. Nobody's going to want to back him because, of what's happened, especially with the drug test as well. And for me, I was happy, that he got the win. I was really hoping that he would kind of salvage what happened because, he tested clean. He was clean for this fight. As far as we know, we haven't seen what the results are post-fight. I'm not sure if VADA put that up yet, that they've completed it. But for me, I just feel like, Canelo should get, a lot of credit, really, more than anything. I feel like he's got a lot of hate. And I don't know, man. For me, I was happy with the decision, and that's why I don't want to see a trilogy, because I said before this fight to a lot of people, I thought, I just hope to God that there is no controversy to an extent where someone actually can cry robbery and it was a clear robbery. Just, you know, if it's a close fight, somebody gets it, let's just move on, because it's been years of building this up. You know, it took years to get the first fight. It was built up.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got the controversy in the first fight. Then Canelo popped. Then the rematch was delayed for a year. It's just been so draining, in my opinion. So I'm just glad it's over, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree that this build-up has just been long. And not only with these two fights, remember when Canelo beat Cotto, like that's when the build-up started. And it was a year and a half of Amir Khan, Liam Smith. And so it has been long, definitely. And sort of switching back to the hate that Canelo has, and I think people, casual fans, have now sort of pegged him as the personification of all of the issues with boxing, the systemic issues, whether it be corruption with judging, nepotism in commissions, the lack of real PD regulation, or just faulty PD regulation. And for most people, it is easier to point at one face instead of a system of issues, because in their mind, we can blame that one person for all these issues instead of saying, hey, these commissions are fucked up, these regulatory bodies are fucked up, we need to start fixing the system of boxing. So these issues like Canelo with PDs and all that, there is a actual consistent structure to what we have here instead of what people perceive, which is part right, part wrong, of this corruption within the sport, and Canelo being the personification of that.
Yeah. I completely agree with everything you said. I mean, in terms of, I was thinking of, earlier on, I'm not sure if you spoke about what you feel like should be next for both these guys. Yeah, have you spoke about that yet? Or
yeah, I mentioned James DeGale, Chris Eubank. 168 for me for Triple G is more interesting than staying at 160 and being fed to these young guys. For Canelo, I understand the Lemieux fight's going to happen December or next year, so that's going to happen. And then obviously, like a Charlo fight makes a lot of sense. That's probably the best fight for him style-wise in the division. That's probably going to equal the best fight for us. It seems a little bit unlikely, but then again, he's a network free agent, so God knows where we end up with Canelo and Triple G in their respective careers heading forward.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier on because I want to see the Canelo Charlo fight. That's the fight I want to see. I know we're going to get Lemieux next. That's a lock. Especially after what Lemieux done to Spike. It's in-house and it's just an actual fight to make. Not a great fight. I mean, Canelo's obviously, he's going to stop Lemieux, but I'm not going to complain as long as we get someone like a Charlo next. For Golovkin, do you know what? There was talks at the Gale, on Twitter quite a bit today. I saw, and I'm not against that fight. I feel like Golovkin, he's still, even though he's sliding, for me, he's getting old. But for me, the Gale's he's really declined. I feel like Golovkin would do a pretty good job on DeGale at this point, because I just thought, you saw what Truax done to DeGale. Won the first fight, second fight. DeGale didn't exactly look amazing in that one, and he's had a few wars, and I just feel like DeGale's got a lot more wear and tear than Golovkin has, a lot more. So I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. I mean, 168 is not exactly the best division in terms of, elite. You've got the World Super Series final, Groves and Smith, but other than that, the division hasn't got like a standout sort of number, like a king in that division. There isn't a standout one. So for me, you can put Golovkin up there, and there's a few good fights up there for him. Whether or not he actually moves up, I don't know. They didn't really speak about what they think's next, because obviously they were talking about the Canelo trilogy. But I wouldn't mind seeing Golovkin against DeGale, or Golovkin Eubank. I think that's more the fight I would like to see. Golovkin Eubank. I feel like that would be interesting at this point, especially where Golovkin's at, and Eubank. Who knows what he's doing? He's floating around at 68, but he's an actual middleweight, so I wouldn't want to see that fight.
And plus, even though Triple G is he still has obviously he has it in the tank still. He can still fight great fights and have elite competitions with championship caliber opponents and win them. He still obviously showed that with Canelo, even though there is a little bit of that he seemed older factor. However, I just feel like fights with Jacobs in a rematch, or a Charlo, or even a Derevchenko or a Saunders, at this point, I don't see Triple G beating them. And maybe that's why I don't really want him to fight those guys, because I see the end of Triple G's time at middleweight is here. Canelo ended his time at middleweight. Let's move on, have something a little bit new and fresh, go up a division. You've never done that. And while you're right, Cameron, that there is no king at super middleweight, I think that will actually probably lead to his favor because everyone's going to want to be the king of super middleweight. And they're probably going to think, if I beat Triple G, that makes me the king. Whether it's Gilberto Ramirez on ESPN, David Benavidez, whoever it is, they're going to look at Triple G as their golden ticket to something. And I think that's where Triple G might end up getting a lot of money for fights that aren't as big as some of these other fights at middleweight.
Yeah, I personally, don't want to see Golovkin. I mean, you look at the 60 division; he pretty much cleaned out most of the contenders. He's beat Lemieux. Jacobs was a close fight, but I wouldn't mind seeing that rematch to some extent because I didn't think Jacobs looked great in his last fight. I know he's fighting Derychenko, but I'd rather see Canelo fight the winner of that fight more than Golovkin. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I said before this fight, I wouldn't be surprised if Golovkin retired if he didn't get the win here. Obviously, he's not going to, because he obviously thought he won the fight. I mean, Golovkin's still got a lot left in the tank. Yeah. If you take into account that, he won the first fight in a lot of people's eyes, and this one was close as well. I mean, it's not like he's had two clear losses where it's obvious he's declined. I mean, there was several aspects of his game that I felt like he wasn't on it, like we've seen before. Obviously, that's to the credit of the level of Canelo, but I just feel like Golovkin's, at this point in his career, does he want to fight these younger guys, like you said, Derychenko? Even Jacobs is younger at this point in that rematch, and I don't know, man. I feel like Golovkin's in a tough spot, on what he does next. Especially, does he want to get back up from the bottom? Does he want to try and build his way back up to the Canelo trilogy, which will be a while? And, because he's not going to get it next. Canelo's obviously going to move on from that. He said after the fight, if people want to see it, then they'll do it. But that fight's not going to happen, and I'm quite happy that it isn't going to happen next. So I think Golovkin's in a tough spot, and it'll be interesting to see what he does next.
I agree. I think Golovkin is in probably the toughest spot of of recent memory for any boxer. Like, there's no easy path for him, or there's no clear path, I should say. Like, even like the super middleweight path, while easier, and guys we mentioned like DeGale, Eubank, those should be easy fights for Triple G. Let's be honest. It's still not a clear path for him. Like, there's still cons to him going down that path. But let's wrap up Canelo Triple G. Any last thoughts on it, Cameron, before we move on?
Nah, man, I pretty much said everything I did. I'm just happy that, it wasn't a robbery. I mean, I'm kind of glad it was just a close fight. We can kind of move on from this because it's just been going on for years.
Agreed. Thoughts on Mayweather Pacquiao too? I mean, I don't know if we want to go there, but you go there.
Do you know what, man? I'm not actually, when it was, when it came out on the Canelo fight day that these two were in Japan and things like that, I thought, here's Floyd and doing what he usually does. He did it on when the rematch was announced earlier this year. That's when Floyd and McGregor were tweeting each other. And I thought, Floyd's just getting the limelight. This isn't serious. And then I saw Mike Comminger's tweet earlier and I thought, oh, this is actually happening then. You know what I mean? If this rematch is happening, I mean, I'm not against it, really. Like, I'm not sitting there thinking, oh, man, I can't believe these two are coming back and fighting. I'm not completely against it. Let's be honest. Everybody that will complain about it, everyone's going to watch it if it does happen. All of us are going to watch the fight because of just the fact it's Mayweather Pacquiao. We know that they're old and they're past it, but so what? We're all going to watch the fight. I don't know, man. I'm not against it. I mean, I'm not sitting there thinking, oh, just stay retired. I'm not 100% against it. These two guys, like you said there before, come on, this fight's probably going to do 2 million plus pay-per-view buys, no doubt. It's not going to do anywhere near the numbers of the first fight did, but it's still going to do big with the casuals, and they'll build it up. And so for me, I'm not against it. Personally, I'm not against it.
And plus, I mean, the fact that they're both old guys, like that's why it's hard for me to be truly against it. They're both old. It's not like it's a Canelo Triple G factor where one fighter is older than the other significantly, where it calls into question, was he in his prime? Was he faded? They're both faded in this option, in this fight. Mayweather's faded. Obviously, he is not the athletic guy he once was. That's clear. Same with Pacquiao. So it's two old guys fighting. So I don't know if I should be complaining about old guys fighting and getting brain damage, or just put my hands up in the air and say, oh, well, it's two old guys fighting. It's pretty even. But But yeah, like you said, like I said, it's going to do numbers. Like this will do bigger numbers than the fight we just had this weekend. Almost guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, I'd rather see this rematch than Pacquiao Khan because I mean, like, that's the fight they were talking about. And Khan's going to get knocked out in that fight anyway. We know what's going to happen. I mean, I'd rather see a rematch with Mayweather, believe it or not. Simply because the fact that it's just we're going to get more boxing. You know, it's going to go further. I mean, I just think Pacquiao knocks Khan clean out. So for me, I'm not against this rematch. You know, like I said just now, we're all going to watch it. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm excited about it. You know, when the official announcement comes, I'm not going to sit here and be buzzing about it. But I'm also not going to sit here and hate on the fight. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'll be watching it. I'm still going to get, obviously in the UK, it's going to be on early morning. I'll still get up at 4 in the morning and watch it because I'll just watch any boxing. But no, man, I'm not against it, man. And, a lot of people on Twitter have been slating it, obviously, but I'm not one of those people, and I'm never going to be one of those people.
Since you mentioned Khan, I actually wanted to bring that up because Eddie Hearn's been saying that this November date is a pay-per-view style card on DAZN in Vegas. And obviously before Saturday, before this Mayweather-Pacquiao shit, I was thinking, oh, it's Pacquiao Khan. Pacquiao versus Khan in Vegas, November 17th or 10th, I forget the exact date. That made the most sense in the world. With this now, what happens with that date? What does Eddie Hearn do? Since you're on the UK side of it, maybe you're a little more, cued into it. What's your perception on that?
Well, this is interesting now, especially with Rame Khan, because he's obviously looking for a big money fight, and the options were Pacquiao or Brook. Now, if Pacquiao and Mayweather are rematching, where does Khan go? He's got no choice but to fight Kell Brook. So, I mean, look, November's way too soon for that fight. That's not going to happen. I'm just kind of thinking about this earlier on, what Hearn can actually bring out that can actually give him that sort of platform and that sort of attention on one of his cards. And, maybe they do Khan or maybe they do Brook against a solid opponent. I don't think it's going to deliver. I just can't see it. It's not going to be anything spectacular, I don't think. Maybe Brooks Khan or Brook in against, maybe Brook fights somebody at 154, maybe Khan fights somebody at 147. I don't know, but for me, that fight has to happen. That no, 100%. There's no other fight out there for either of them, especially now Pacquiao's going for the Floyd rematch. So, in my opinion, I don't know if Hearn's going to switch that around or what, but I just can't see what he brings out. I can't see what he delivers. I mean, look, Hearn, as much as we all hate on him, especially over the UK, he does deliver. When he wants to deliver, he does deliver. So, I'm sure he'll do something, but in terms of like name-wise and fight-wise, I just can't see what he can do right now.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you on that. I don't know what Eddie Hearn, pulls out of the hat right now, what rabbit he pulls out. The Manny Pacquiao rabbit seemed to be the obvious one. A Manny Pacquiao fight in Vegas, especially against Amir Khan, that's legitimate. Like, even though it's past both guys' expiration dates in some ways, that would be Eddie Hearn delivering on some of his, promotional work, in my opinion. Does Khan and Brook do that? I don't know, especially for an American fan base in Vegas. Obviously, a fight that we all want to see. Don't get me wrong, but that fight now, if he were to, let's say, move things around, put Khan and Brook in Vegas to deliver slightly on that promise, that takes away from that fight. That fight should be in the UK. I don't know what he does here. Like you said, Eddie Hearn, even though he, in my opinion, is probably the best, if not promoter in the game, the best talker in the game, he needs to pull something out here. Otherwise, it's going to look bad. It's going to look like egg on his face because, like you said, people hate on him. People really do hate on Eddie Hearn. And this was his big promise. And so far, all we have is Jesse Vargas and Big Baby Miller versus Thomas and Dominic. And that's not a lot.
No, you got better beer against Callum Johnson as well. I mean, the card's okay, but it's bad for Hearn. Like I said, it's bad for Hearn because, like I said, everybody hates on Hearn, and any ammunition that people can get to hate on Hearn, they'll do it, and it's going to happen again here. The card where Vargas is fighting Delorme, I mean, it's just, I know it's his first card and everything, like a proper card, but that fight is horrible. Vargas against Delorme. I mean, Delorme's just, he's nowhere near the level of Vargas. And then you've got Jarrell Miller against Thomas Adamek. I mean, that's just horrible. I mean, Miller should be fighting somebody, who's legit now. You know, he should be going in there with someone like Dylan White.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the fight to make. You know, that is the fight to make, I feel. You know, Jarrell Miller's fought Wack. He's fought Washington. He fought, I think, Duapar as well. You know, decent little run, but he's dropping back with the Adamek fight because Adamek's, you know, he's not a heavyweight. You know, he's never been in his prime at heavyweight, and he's well past it now. I think he got beat by Eryk Molina a few years ago, which kind of says a lot. So, you know, Hearn needs to make a big fight for Miller as well. I mean, I just hope to God that they don't put him in with Joshua because I want to see Miller in with someone like a Dylan White. I just feel like that could be one of the best fights to make in the division right now, actually.
Yeah, I basically agree. I've been sort of, you know, banging the drum for a White versus Miller fight because that clearly makes a number one contender for either Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. Like, clear cut, that is the guy that should be fighting for someone's belt after that fight. And plus, stylistically, those two guys are going to meet each other in the center of the ring, and it's going to be a fun heavyweight fight. It's going to be a little bit sloppy, but heavyweight fights tend to be a little bit sloppy, so I'll be okay with that. You know, I'm curious. You know, obviously, let's sort of move away from boxing. Let's get to the UFC because you said you want to talk about the UFC. UFC in Moscow, Mark Hunt versus Alexey Oleynik. Oleynik submitting Mark Hunt in the first round. Cajun Johnson losing on the card. Who else? I have the card. Let me pull up and just run down the list right here before we talk about it. Alexey Oleynik defeating Mark Hunt. Jan Blachowicz defeating Nikita Krylov, which was heartbreaking. Shamil Abduramakov defeating Andrei Arlovsky. Alexei Kunchenko versus Thiago Alves defeated Thiago Alves. CB Dollaway almost got killed in the ring. Shout out to Herb Dean for that one versus Khalid Mustalev. Peter Yan versus Jin So-san had a good fight there, beat him. And, of course, like I said, Rustam Kabalov versus Cajun Johnson defeated him. Mirbek Tusamov versus Desmond Green defeated him as well. I'm assuming you watched this card because you said you want to talk about the UFC event. What was your take on it?
Yeah, one thing I would like to say, I was surprised that Blachowicz beat Krylov. I mean, I was very surprised by that.
That was so sad.
Yeah, man, I was disappointed with that one. I wasn't surprised that Hunt lost. Just kind of think who else on the card. I mean, CB Dollaway feels like he's been around for a century now. I just feel like I'm not sure where Oleynik goes next. Thinking about it, I mean, you know, he beat Hunt, great, but Oleynik's been around forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, how long has he been in the UFC now? I think he's at maybe 4 years. And you know, I know he's beat Travis Brown. I think when was his last loss? I think he lost to Curtis Blades last year.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm not sure where he goes next. I thought, you know, he submitted Hunt in the first round, fair enough. But where does he go next? I know that Verdum just got banned for 2 years. I thought that maybe, you know, that could have been a decent fight for him. But I don't know, man. The heavyweight division is kind of a bit of a turmoil with Cormier being a champion now, and you know he's looking at the fighting at 205 next, I think. So, you know, what do you do? Do you do him against someone like Overeem, or you know, do you do someone? You know, I think what's JDS doing? Is he fighting the World Series of Fighting guy? Oh, what's his name?
Tuvasa.
That's it. Yeah, he's fighting him. So maybe you do him against the winner of that. I don't know, but I think. I don't know, man. I don't know what you do with Oleynik next. Well, what do you think?
I'll be honest. I love the Overeem fight. I think that makes perfect sense. The second you mentioned that, then it just made sense. Another name that potentially I would be okay with is Cain Velasquez if he actually does come back, because he's been talking recently about finally coming back and fighting in the UFC. That would be somebody I would be interested in. Plus, Oleynik is not really a heavy hitter, dangerous, athletic opponent to where I feel like Cain Velasquez would, you know, suffer at that hand, being on a huge layoff, being a little bit faded athletically. Oleynik doesn't have those major factors on his side, so it would be pretty even in that way, in my opinion. But like I said, Alexey Oleynik's been around since a minute. He has over 60 pro fights. And in MMA, that's rare. I know in boxing that might not be as rare for some of our listeners. They may not be like, wow about that. But 60 pro fights in MMA is a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I think, like you said, Verdum would have made perfect sense, but he just got a 2-year suspension. If it's not Overeem, I think Cain Velasquez off the layoff, or maybe like an Alexander Volkov, Derek Lewis winner. I'll be okay with that as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, I'm just thinking, where does Mark Hunt go now? I mean, he's kind of, been looked at, he's going to be kind of one of these sacrificial lambs now, you'd have to say. I mean, he has been for a while. He's not exactly been at the elite level. I know he lost to Overeem, and that was, he beat Derek Lewis and he lost to Overeem, and since then he's been kind of on a downward spiral. I mean, Mark Hunt's not got many fights if you're talking MMA, you can see how long he's been around for, but I mean, where does he go next? Does he kind of get put down in the prelims on a pay-per-view card? Does he carry on fighting on the fight night cards against some pretty poor opposition? I mean, I think Hunt's done at top level, especially after this fight.
Well, it's interesting because obviously on top of that, you have the lawsuit factor with Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt is currently suing the UFC, which is funny because he keeps getting main event slots. That's why he's suing the UFC. I think that's hilarious. Same with Kajan Johnson on the card. Similar story. He's obviously with Project Spearhead trying to unionize the fighters. He had another loss that was controversial. I could see the UFC letting go of both guys. I'll be honest. Both guys really aren't of value, I think, to the UFC in 2018. However, because of what's happened with Leslie Smith and now her really pressing the UFC in her lawsuit for firing her when she's been part of Project Spearhead, I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC is scared of any sort of additional lawsuits. And because of that, keep these two guys around. Now, if they do keep Mark Hunt around, what happens to him, I don't know. Because like you said, he obviously is way past his prime. He has never been the best heavyweight while having a credentialed kickboxing career. He's a 500 MMA fighter. And to be fair, he's fought at the top of the heavyweight division for that entire time, basically. But he is, 1-3 in his last 4 fights. He beat Derek Lewis, but that doesn't mean that much to me right now. I don't know. I mean, maybe he fights the loser of one of these guys, maybe like a loser of JDS Tuvasa, the loser of Volkov Lewis, the loser of certain of these fights, I would see. But other than that, I'm not that interested in it. I'm worried about his health on top of that. He's been a guy that's come out, talked about how he's like he would lose track of time, like he would just have blackouts, and just have massive headaches. That the concern of CTE and etc. That to me is prevalent now with Mark Hunt. What I would personally want is him to retire. I don't think that happens. I don't think the UFC lets him go. I think he's going to stay around and fight guys he shouldn't be fighting and get hurt, in my opinion. That's what I think about it.
I'm just thinking, hasn't Hunt already fought JDS? Like, wasn't it before the trilogy with Velasquez? I just feel like even if Hunt fought someone like JDS, I'd feel like even though JDS has kind of slipped, I feel like Hunt is tailor-made for JDS. Yeah. Even at this point, I just feel like JDS will just pick him apart at this point. So I think maybe Hunt, I wouldn't be against him retiring. I kind of agree with what you're saying. He's been around for a long time, but you look at his losses. He got knocked out in pretty much all of them. He got knocked out by JDS. I think he even got knocked out by the Doom. He got knocked out by Miocic, Overeem. I know Blades obviously decisioned him. He's not exactly a big hitter, Blades, but he's taken a lot of damage in his career, Hunt, and over a long period of time. So, and at this point, he's only going to be on the way down. So, yeah, I would rather see him retire. But on top of what you just said, to be honest, I'm just thinking about it. But I don't know, man. There's nothing out there for him because he's not going to beat any of the top guys. He's not even remotely close, especially when it comes to the top 10. I'm not sure where he is in the rankings before this fight. I don't know if you know where he was in the rankings. Was he still in the top 10?
I have no idea.
No, but he's definitely not in the top 10 after this fight. So, in my opinion, Hunt should retire. I'm thinking about that. I mean, I'm not even bothered where Oleynik goes, to be honest with you. He's not exactly going to be a champion. He's not going to get anywhere close to the likes of them guys. On the Velasquez, I mean, I still don't know if he's going to come back. I know he's been out since the Brown fight at 200, which was over 2 years ago now. So I think Velasquez is it's a tough spot because he's one of my favourite fighters of all time, Velasquez, and I want to see him back, but I don't want to see him come back, be a shell of himself and get knocked out and wiped out by a guy that he would have knocked out or walked through a few years ago, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm kind of hesitant on Velasquez right now.
I agree. I mean, it's the heavyweight division in the UFC. Like, it's not a great division, let's be quite honest. But moving on to some more MMA news, and Cameron come on after, present the topic. Eryk Enders replaced Jimi Manuwa and will face Thiago Santos in the new UFC Sao Paulo main event, a main event that's been changed now 3 or 4 times. Eryk Anders, Thiago Santos, 2 guys that are coming off late notice to take this fight. Both guys are career middleweights, now moving up to 205. I like this fight. I'll be honest. I liked it more when it was Thiago Santos versus Jimi Manuwa. I'll be completely honest. But Eryk Anders is a good replacement on 6 days' notice. It's probably the best you can get. And also, I love that all of these middleweights are seemingly starting to move up, or at least starting to realize that is an option for them. 205 is a barren division. Daniel Cormier and John Jones are somewhere off gallivanting by themselves, leaving the division to itself. I mean, the biggest hope for the division was Nikita Krylov, let's be honest, on Saturday, and he just lost. So anyone can come in here at 205 and make some noise, a la Anthony Smith. So I'm okay with both these guys now at 205. Hopefully they stay at this division. And I'm picking Thiago Santos preliminary. I think he's just probably the better technical fighter overall than Eryk Anders, though Eryk Anders is somebody you cannot sleep on at all. He could definitely come in here and beat Thiago Santos. It's a close fight. Cameron, what's your take on the new UFC Sao Paulo main event?
I pretty much agree with you also. I'm not against it. I mean, this has been changed numerous times. I was talking to somebody that I know quite well earlier on about this when the news was broke. I'm a bit disappointed. I was looking forward to Manuwa fight. I always enjoy watching Manuwa fight. He's one of our guys over here. I mean, I always enjoy watching him fight. He's exciting to fight and he's exciting to watch when he's fighting. But I just don't know, man. Like you said, light heavyweight division is so lackluster. I mean, you got Gustafsson there at the top. He's kind of waiting. If Cormier is going to go down and defend the title, it's got to be against Gus, you'd have to say. I mean, Jones, who knows what's going on there. But I'm not against this main event. I think it's pretty evenly matched. I think whoever wins this fight is going to be, it's a main event, and whoever wins this fight is going to be in line for a bigger fight. Maybe someone like Vince St. Preux or someone like that. Even Blachowicz, maybe he's kind of put himself back up to win over Krylov. So I think it's a good fight on base of the winner is going to go on to bigger things. Especially now they've moved up from middleweight, lightweight's wide open, completely wide open. So I feel like the winner of this fight is going to go on to pretty good things. It's a big opportunity. Both got a main event in a new division, so I'm not against it. I'll be watching it. I mean, it's not exactly the most on paper. If you don't really follow MMA, it's not exactly the best main event, is it? You know what I mean? It's not exactly something that's going to do a lot of viewing on TV and things like that, but it's a good fight, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously, Volkan Ozdemir versus Anthony Smith is in November or October. I may be getting the month wrong. Obviously,
it's a good fight.
The winner of that fight is a player that, in this concoction of light heavyweight, I'm interested in some capacity. But like you said, the top is, it's maybe Gustafsson, and he might fight Daniel Cormier, but God knows what's going to happen with him. He seems just to be waiting, though he did just have a kid. I believe he had his 2nd or 3rd child.
Yeah.
So I understand him sort of taking maybe some family time and not really worrying about his fight career right now. I'll be completely honest with that. But we're going to move on to last news of the day, one that I find sort of divisive in the MMA community, so I can't wait to get Cameron's take on it. 'Cause I know Anthony Walker from Sherdog, who's obviously in the chat, loyal listener to the show, he took a very strong opinion about this. But Valentina Shevchenko is now very open to the Yana Jędrzejczyk fight, saying why not. And on top of that, Jędrzejczyk complimenting that, saying the fight is, she's very open to fighting Valentina Shevchenko. It was fair to strip Nico Montana. So it seemed basically that there's a lot of smoke to a potential fire of Valentina Shevchenko versus Yana Jędrzejczyk for a vacant women's flyweight belt. Cameron, let me get your take on that before I give mine.
I'm hoping to God this fight gets pulled off, man. Simply because the fact that the flyweight, I know that the flyweight division is very new, but you're talking about Shevchenko against Joanna. That's a great fight, man. It's a fight you can put on pay-per-view, and maybe not. Maybe it'll be a co-main. I'm not too sure, but it's got a lot of history there. You saw it with the Muay Thai, and the fact that Joanna came out today. I'm not sure who put it out, but I'm not sure if it was on Errol Helwani's show. Joanna spoke about it, but I kind of saw a transcript of what she said about that, and I'm hyped about the fight. I hope to God it gets pulled off, because what other fighters are out there for Valentina at 125 for the vacant belt. You know, Joanna's, you know, she's got the tied women's title defenses, and you know she's coming off a win as well. So, and I know she spoke about moving up to 125 before Joanna. So, I hope this fight gets pulled off. It's one of the best fights even made in the sport right now, I think.
You know, I'll be honest, I completely agree with you. Obviously, the criticism that's out there for this matchup is that Joanna Jędrzejczyk has not fought at 125, and therefore it's, I'm going to use the term disrespectful, to give her that title shot over people that have been fighting at that division. And I get that argument. I get the logic behind it. But like Cameron said, this fight is interesting. Like, Valentina Shevchenko versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, style-wise, will be a fun fight. And not only that, it adds some star value to the division in a way that the Montano fight just didn't, unfortunately. And I don't think she should have been stripped. You know, I've talked about that almost ad nauseum on this show. But unfortunately, we are in this predicament. We are here where she is not the champion. She got stripped. Valentina Shevchenko is going to fight someone for the vacant belt. Who should that be? Well, we need to restart the division. We need to get the defibrillators, whatever, the thing that shocks you when you have a heart attack. We need that thing on this division because it needs it. And Jędrzejczyk is potentially that. She is a lightning rod of not only entertainment, but also of a drawing power. She's one of the few women that does have a drawing power in the sport. So her attachment to it does help not only this fight, but the division as a whole. And I think that's a net positive. I understand that people out there thinking that there's other fighters that should have got the nod over it. But I think in the long run, this is better for the division. It does, in my opinion. Anything else, Cameron?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like because Joanna's got such a good history, you know, she's got such an accomplished sort of career already, especially when it comes to 115. You know, I know she lost to Rose twice. So if you look at it in this way, you know, nobody wants to see the third fight of Rose because she's lost twice. So what, you know, if she's going to move up to 125, you know, she's still a great fighter. You know what I mean? She's still an excellent fighter to watch. She's good to listen to on the mic. You know, she's got a good personality. She's out there, and you know, I've always enjoyed watching her. You know what I mean? So I just feel like if you look into the fact that, you know, she's lost twice to the current champion at 115, why not let her move up to 125? Simply because of the fact that what she's done at 115, you know, it's a new chapter, and you know, it's two elite women fighters fighting for a title, and you know, it will put the division on the map more to an extent of Valentina's last fight. You know, if that actually came off, so it's a bigger name and it's a good fight that people will speak about. So I feel like on that basis, I think it's the right fight to make.
I agree, Cameron, and thank you for your call. Before we head out, please let the people know where they can find your work and what you've been doing.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at CameronGillen_. I'm always tweeting on there. I'm on there quite a lot. Mostly talking about boxing, but if you do follow MMA, then hit me up and we can talk about that. I write for Boxing Monthly now. And I'll do a lot of interviews for them. You can catch me at Fight News. You can catch me at a lot of outlets. But if you just follow me on Twitter, that's where you'll find my work. So, yeah, appreciate having me on the show, bro. I'll be back on again for sure.
Of course, Cameron. Thank you for coming on. Always appreciate media calling in and giving their take on it and their expertise on all these news, all the fights, all the events. It's always good to have that, especially as a listener. I know listeners out there appreciate when media get together and have these discussions. Santiago, I see you're in the queue. You have not pressed 1. So I'm going to talk for a bit until you press 1, and if you don't, we're going to roll out of here because that is the only call of the day. If you want to call in and give your points on or points off about Canelo Triple G, MayPac, UFC Moscow, Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Valentina Shevchenko, I see you, Anthony. I see you in there, okay?
I want smoke.
It's okay, Anthony. I know that talk about Jędrzejczyk really fired you up. You're upset. Again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. Or if you are international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com. And I can give you that international free call-in link that is permanent. So like Cameron, he can call in using that link all the time now. You can just go click on it. He calls into the show live. Excellent quality. That's always probably the better way to do it and more consistent because Blog Talk sometimes is a little bit iffy. But anyways, since Santiago is not pressing 1, we're going to head out of here. Hope everyone had a great day. And not only that, I hope everyone had a great weekend. I hope everyone enjoyed the fights, whether it was you UFC fans out there or MMA fans out there that loved the Moscow event, or the majority of us that watched Canelo versus Triple G and thought it was arguably the best fight of the year. Definitely one of those that we're going to be arguing about for a while. Again, I know there's people out there that disagreed with me, that thought Triple G won, that thought he did the better work. Good. I'm glad you think that. I'm glad you're emotional about this sport. Be emotional. Get upset. Have a actual, response to what is happening in front of you. Because, like I've said, Canelo is the face for a lot of people of the issues with boxing, which there are issues. Corruption, nepotism, inefficiency, loopholes, whether it be PD regulation, regulatory bodies, sanctioning bodies, whatever it may be. There's obviously corruption in this sport. And obviously not only corruption, but just incompetence. And the system breeds that. That's how we get an Adelaide Bird scorecard, where she gets the job as a judge just because her husband is a ref and a judge. Does she have any qualifications for it? No. But we have no rules for that. There's no, school for refs and judges. There's nothing like that. There's no system to fix this issue. The system is flawed. The system is messed up. And instead of blaming Canelo for being a product of that system, blame the system. Go fix it. Instead of writing changepetition.orgs to investigate Canelo Triple G decision, do that just to investigate the sanctioning bodies. Maybe that should be something a little more value. But anyways, I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. You can find me at Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms. Obviously, this is Mixed Combat Radio. Hit the like button on the way out. Share the show. Subscribe. Patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. Help support the channel any financial way. It is always appreciated. And you get, of course, more content per week. We'll be back tomorrow at our usual time, 10 p.m. Eastern. 10 p.m. UK, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, live on YouTube, podcast form, obviously iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Leave that review if you listen on podcasts, and have a fantastic day. Peace.